everyone, my name is Naysy, and today I'll be walking you through how to do mixed reality. Now, I get lots of questions about mixed reality, a lot around how do I put myself in the game and how do you set it up, what webcams, green screen, all that kind of stuff. So today I'll be covering as much as possible. Here we are, I'll be walking you through step by step on how you can do mixed reality, what you need to buy, how you need to set it up, and some common tips and tricks to tackle any troubleshooting you might come across. Firstly, what is mixed reality? Mixed reality is the merging of real and virtual worlds to produce new environments and visualizations, where physical and digital objects coexist and interact in real time. Thanks, Wikipedia. Essentially, in this context, we're talking about virtual reality and filming in a way that is really immersive. Now, not all games are available to be used with mixed reality. The developers have to enable the feature either through an SDK or through a third-person camera. We'll touch on a bit about what games are available a little bit later. Now, if you're wanting to do mixed reality, you will need a virtual reality headset. The most popular ones are the Oculus Rift S or the HTC Vive. There are other headsets like the Valve Index. At this stage, I don't believe the Oculus Quest does work with mixed reality, but I'm sure and hope that will change. But in this video, we'll mostly be talking about the Oculus Rift headsets and the HTC Vive. Now, if you own a VR headset or if you're wanting to purchase one, you need to make sure that your computer is compatible and has specs that are good enough to run virtual reality. Now, to film the actual mixed reality content, you will need a web camera or similar. The webcam is what captures you in the mixed reality space. Generally, a webcam is all you need to do this. A popular choice for webcams is the Logitech C920 or the C922. If you've already got one of those webcams, they're a great option for mixed reality. If you are looking to invest, I personally recommend the Logitech Brio. The reason for this, it has wide angle, which means you can capture all your awesome dance moves and not have it be cut off on the screen. It also has 60 frames per second on 1080p resolutions. The Logitech C920 or the C922, the common webcams, they don't offer 60 frames per second on 1080p. And while it's totally not essential, it still looks amazing on any webcam you use. If you want that smooth, buttery look, bumping it up to 1080p with 60 FPS makes it look pretty damn good. Of course, if you're a bit fancy, you can use a DSLR. You can also use things like a GoPro, which I know a lot of people use as well. All right, for step 2, you're going to need a green screen. If you're not familiar with green screen, it allows you to capture yourself with a green, contrasting background, which then can be easily removed. If you watch, say, the Avengers or any popular VFX films, this is how they capture a lot of their stunts and action scenes. They film it on a contrasting background and then remove it in post-processing and then chuck in the effects that they want to see, which is essentially what we're doing with mixed reality. Now, for a green screen, it's very important that you set it up, and it is probably one of the most troublesome parts of mixed reality, and it's also quite hard to get it looking nice. For a good mixed reality green screen space, you essentially want a green wall that allows you to capture a full length of your body, but also give you enough space that you can move your arms around in whatever game you're playing. I'm personally very fortunate that I live in a house where I'm able to paint the walls, so that is what I've done in my space. I went down to my local hardware store, bought the greenest paint I could buy, and painted the walls with it. Now, it's very important if you are painting your walls that you make sure you get a matte color and you go for a green that's pretty much as green as possible. You can also order special chroma key paint. This is a great option if you can get your hands on some or want to invest in that as well. Again, I emphasize, make sure whatever paint you buy that it's not glossy, because you will get reflections. You want to make sure it's matte. Now, another common option is fabric. So a lot of streamers, and something I started out doing initially, was using green fabric or what they call muslin to hang up on the area behind you. You can order kits off eBay, which also include lighting, and it comes with stands so you can easily hang up the green screen area. They usually give you quite a lot of fabric, so you can get pretty creative with it and how you're going to hang it. So if you do have access to a wall, you can also clip it or pin it or nail it to the walls around you. Of course, if you're in a rental, be careful doing something like this. You don't want to damage the wall, but this is something that may involve a lot of trial and error, and it is probably the most frustrating part to get right with the mixed reality setup. You can also use something like an Elgato green screen, but again, they don't really create a lot of width. Yeah, you want to make sure that you're not knocking it over while you're playing some Beat Saber. Now, for the floor, this is another tricky part to get right. Of course, you don't have to have floor. Depending on what games you're playing, you can cut yourself off at the waist or kind of further down. This does work quite well with Beat Saber. We just kind of change the angles to kind of be from the waist up. But personally, I love the full field view. It feels really immersive, and especially with other games, it can look really cool to have that mixed reality full body experience. I personally use rubber flooring. It comes in a pack of 10 or something like that, and you jigsaw all the different pieces together. It also has really nice edging, so you can form a nice rectangle area. These are available on Amazon and elsewhere. Generally, if you Google like gym mat or play mat with the color green, they do pop up quite a bit. This floor has worked really well for me, the reason being that it is foam, it's got a level of thickness to it, so it's nice on your feet if you're playing for long hours at a time. The struggle I've had with this one is that due to all the dancing around I do in Beat Saber, they have started to stretch and now the jigsaw doesn't quite fit in together, which is a little frustrating. Also, my dogs like to pee on it, which is also very gross and frustrating, but yeah, that's a never-ending problem. Now that we've got our green screen sorted, now we need to move on to lights.
These lights!
Now with the green screen area, it's very important that the area is lit evenly. One area is darker than the other, you're going to get some distortion on the video that you're outputting. Also, if one area is lighter than the other, you're also going to end up with bright spot. I personally use a ring light in the middle of my room that's hung up against the wall, and that lights directly onto me so I don't look too dark. And it also does a pretty good job at lighting the area as well. My room is generally somewhat dark. I have curtains up so I get no light leakage as well. And I have a small kind of photography light mounted against the wall, which does light the back of the wall. For me, this works pretty well. And to be honest, I don't think you need to go too hardcore with lighting. I think experiment a little. Now we've got our mixed reality area set up. Now it's time for the software. Now, the number one software I do recommend and have only ever used is the Live software, L-I-V. And yeah, it works really well. The team there are really amazing. They have a Discord available. They also have a wiki guide, which I'll link down below. They're an amazing community to reach out to if you do get stuck with anything, but hopefully I can cover everything in this video. But firstly, you want to download that app from the Steam store. You can also go to live.tv if you want a direct link to the Steam store as well. Live is free to download, which is super great. Now, while you're downloading that one, I do recommend downloading the OpenVR advanced setting plugin. So depending on the VR game, you want to be facing the back of the room, and this OpenVR software allows you to rotate your play space. And sometimes you want it to be on a slight angle or directly back on or directly facing the camera. It totally depends on the game. But for Beat Saber, you definitely want to be facing the back, and I prefer a slight little angle as well so people can see what you're actually hitting and the blocks coming towards you. So once you open up the Live software, don't launch the compositor just yet. We want to make sure that we have all the drivers installed. So when you open up the Live software, you'll see a little box that says, "Welcome to Live." You can also click on the guide if you would prefer to read through how to set it up as well. In the second half of the box, you'll see there's a virtual camera driver. We want to click install on that. That allows us to have all the plugins to work with Live and the software as well. Now, if you do have an Oculus Rift, you want to make sure that your Oculus software is up and running, so then it can talk to Steam. If you didn't know, you can play all the Steam games available. If you do have a Oculus Rift 2, you just need to make sure that software's up and running and it's talking to the Steam VR software. Now, after you install those drivers, you may need to restart Steam VR, so make sure you do that and that it's reading your VR headset fine before launching the compositor. Now you can click on launch compositor and you can boot up the software and start setting up our camera. Now on the left hand side, we'll see a few options. We've got capture, camera, viewfinder, and output. Navigate your way over to camera and see a few options down the bottom. The first one being a little camera icon with a plus button. We're going to select that, and here we have the option of type. So if you click on type, we have the options of avatar, video camera, and Microsoft Connect. So if you aren't comfortable being on camera, you can choose to use a avatar. I personally never done so probably won't cover it in this video, but there's plenty of resources available that can help you through how you can set up an avatar. But in this situation, we're going to click video camera. And then it pops up with a new tab that says device, so we can click on that and we can scroll through and see what camera we want to use. I'm a Twitch streamer, so I have quite a few different cameras, but in this situation, we are using my Logitech Brio. Yours may say a different webcam model, like a C922 or something different as well. So we're going to click Logitech Brio. Now for mode, now you see we have a few resolutions available, so it's up to you how you want to run things. If your PC does struggle a little bit, you may want to bump down the resolution, maybe something like 720p. If you're streaming in 720p, there's probably no reason to run your camera at 1080p, so bumping it down may help you a lot of CPU usage as well. You can also, if you want, click on device settings and it opens up the manual properties of the webcam where you can play around with the white balance, the exposure, the saturation. I do play around with this sometimes because I like to look nice and purple. Now under profile name, we can give it a name. Call it whatever you want, just make sure you're remembering what it's called. And yeah, that's our camera setup. So we want to click on save. Now next to that camera icon we just clicked, you'll see a little icon with lots of bars. These are our settings. These are probably the part you're going to use Live the most because where you tweak and set up everything to do with Live. So now we clicked on that, you can see the camera, and you can also see on the left we have a few options of calibration, keying, crop and flip, and advanced. We're going to click on calibration. So what calibration does, it is what syncs up your webcam with the game. Use your controllers as a point of reference, so the webcam knows what to track in the game, and that's what really makes it look like you're in the game, the tracking of the controllers and your movement. So to set that up, we want to go begin calibration. Alright, this is what my green screen area looks like, and this is me with my headset on and controllers. So we want to go ahead and pop your VR headset on, and from this view you should see a window with a reflection of essentially what you look like in the space. We want to click calibrate on the left hand side, and you'll be prompted to press the trigger button to start setting up the space. In your headset area, you'll see a giant red cross. What this does is syncs up the controller with the webcam. We want to touch the controller exactly central to where that cross is. So we want to walk all the way up to our webcam, and as straight as possible and as close as possible, we want to press the controller trigger exactly on the center of that cross. Once you do that, the cross is then going to move to a different place in your room. We want to move backwards in your room, and again try and exactly level up our controller with that cross in the play space. Well, after you've lined up the controller on that second cross, the cross will then move to a different spot lower on the play space and on the opposite side. So if you move over to that cross and line it up again straight as possible, try and get it as even as possible. I find having the headset on makes it easy to do this. Some people may look at the screen to line it up exactly, but I find keeping the headset on is the best way to do this. Just make sure you don't trip, that's important. Now once that's done, in the virtual play space you should be able to see virtual controllers. So what we want to do is make sure these are lined up as perfectly as possible with our real controller. For me, as you can see, I have a bit of latency issue. They're a bit delayed when moving my hands around. I'm going to look down at the settings below us, and we have a few options here. We want to click on latency. We want to adjust this to match the latency of our webcam. So really it's a matter of just adjusting the different latency, testing it out, and seeing what looks best. So for this, you got to wave your arms around like a crazy person to see how it looks, but generally it's the best way to test it. After you're happy with the latency, we're going to click on position. If your controllers aren't perfectly lined up, that's a-okay. We can click on position and move the different axes of the controller. Mine are off slightly, so I will adjust the X position, which moves them left and right. We've also got the Y position for up and down, and the Z position for back and forth. And if you're happy with it, make sure to click save. Now that we've calibrated our play space, we want to adjust the background to make sure that we're only capturing the green area of the screen. So we want to jump back over to our settings. If you're not already there, click edit. And on the left hand side, we have the option of keying. For me, it's already done the chroma key, but just in case it hasn't, we want to make sure that we're picking a color and that it's green and matching as close as possible to the background we have. So you can adjust it less or more. I find the default works pretty well. Now we want to adjust the threshold, and this is how much of the green it takes of the screen. You want to be careful that you're not taking too much green, because then you can accidentally remove the chroma key from yourself and you don't want to look invisible on the screen. A good way to test is to stand in the space and make sure that it's not removing any greens from your body as well. As you see here, the more I turn it up, the more invisible my doggies become, and that's not what we want. Now that we're happy with our chroma key space, we want to click on edit again, and we want to jump down to crop and flip. So what this does is helps us remove the background and crop out anything that we don't want to be captured in the scene. As you can see, I've got my window on the left hand side and bookcase on the right, so we want to remove that. So what we're going to do is click on left, and you press the plus button and you can manually click it, or you can drag it along to adjust the space. I recommend clicking the plus button and minus button to get it exact, because you want as much width as possible. Now you also have a few options to adjust the top here and the bottom. Depending on your space, you may or may not need to use this. You can also flip it horizontal or vertical. Position size, probably don't recommend playing around with that, but if you're happy with it, make sure to press save. Now for some advanced settings, you can click on the under edit and check out the advanced. You can use something called a static mask. Now what a static mask does is allow you to crop your area in a more exact way. I have a lot of space that gets cut off if I do crop it manually, so we want to be able to utilize all the space at the front. So under advanced, if you click on static mask, you can use something called masking. And to do a mask, what you have to do is take a screenshot of your play space, and then in a program like Photoshop or Paint, you want to make the green areas white, and the areas you want to remove from the background, you want to make them black. So this is what a mask will look like. You can Google masking and live, or jump on the Discord if you want to ask more questions about this, but essentially you just want to screenshot the space, use black for the background and white for the green screen area, and then we want to jump into the advanced setting and select static mask. We want to go browse, select our mask, and then bam, that has perfectly cut out our area. And if you're not too sure if it worked, if you remove your chroma key, Bam, there we go. So that's what it looks like. Now that we've set up our space, it's now time to launch the game. And whether you want to stream it or record it, that's up to you. I personally use OBS. There's other programs like Streamlabs OBS. There's plenty of tutorials available on them. So if you need help there, I recommend Googling it. Under the capture side on the left-hand side, we can click on that with a bunch of options of games. Hopefully it's read your Steam library and it gives you options of what games can be launched in mixed reality. So if the games have the SDK installed, it should pop up in the top of the list, but you also have legacy support and possibly supported, so they may or may not work with the live mixed reality software. Beat Saber is my favorite, so when you click Beat Saber, you can also choose your resolution. This is what's going to be captured in your stream software. So you usually choose the option that you are streaming at, and then we're going to go sync and launch. If you just launch the game manually, it still does work as well, but this is a good way to do it. Now we click on calibration, there is an option called field of view override, and this is if you want to be more zoomed in or more zoomed out on the screen. Playing a game like Beat Saber or a game that has a lot of action on the screen, zooming out the field of view can really help everyone get the full gauge of what you're experiencing. So you can adjust this to be more zoomed in or more zoomed out. It's totally up to you. I run mine around 71. Now remember that OpenVR advanced settings I told you to install earlier? This is where it comes in handy. If the game you're playing doesn't have the right angle for mixed reality, it can be such a pain. You don't want to film yourself standing sideways or backwards or to the front if it's not relevant to the right game. Make sure that we got Steam up and running. Press the Steam icon, it's the left button on your Oculus controller. Press that and look down the bottom. You'll see an icon that says advanced settings. Once you're in advanced settings, navigate your way to play space, and then you have a few options, and mostly we want to have a look at rotate play space. That then allows you to get the right angle for your mixed reality. So a massive thank you to everyone for watching this video. I hope it has helped you. I've tried to cover as much as possible without making this video too long. I'll leave some links in the description below of some common troubleshooting tips, and I'll also leave some links of some people's setups so you can get inspired about what green screens, lights, and cameras you want to use, because that's usually a really good gauge of how to set up your space bet. And once again, thank you so much for watching this video. If it has helped you, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content, especially Beat Saber and VR content, make sure to subscribe so you can catch my future content. But thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!